Hello, my name is Chuck Bastie. Um, I'm going to do this because there's very few teachers in the world that come into your life that have that much of an impact on who you've become as a human being. And I think teachers are the most invaluable resource that we have in the world. In fact, in my world, I think that sports stars or celebrities or movie stars should be reversed back into the role of teachers. Teachers should be getting into limousines. Teachers should be like being celebrated and have millions of followers because the impact that they have on our lives is so profound that it's multi generational. And I know that I've had four amazing teachers in my life that have drastically impacted my life, made me a better person, believed in me before I saw my own belief in myself. And they're so rare. And when you lose one, it is like losing a part of your childhood. And unfortunately, we lost Gord McLeod, who was my prof at Sheridan College in Brampton in the early 90s. And I wanted to take a moment just to put this online because I know that people who took his classes will come back and just say, oh my God, like what a profound impact that man had on us during our time at Sheridan, after our time when we went into the business world and created our business legacies or our marketing background or whatever that we went into. Gord had his fingers in all of that in our lives. And I have no doubt that once this goes out into the social media world, that will get an impact back at us because Gord was just that influential. So when I heard that Gord had passed away, I wasn't surprised because I think he was in his 50s back in the early 90s. So that puts him in his 80s or whatever, and he wasn't in great shape in his 50s. So the fact that he squeaked out another 30 years is amazing. That he had a really good long run, but it's how he lived his life that I think is just more indicative of who Gord was as a human being and the passion that he lived with his life. Because I mean, he used his body every inch of it for marketing. Like he was just a marketing guru. And looking back at it now, I just wanted to share some ideas and some thoughts that I had in my experience with Gord and just put that out there so that way everybody else can share their own memories. And I've reached out to Sheridan College in Brampton, and I'd like to try and get a celebration of life for Gord, possibly in the spring, that we can actually edify and acknowledge Gord's legacy properly where he did it at Sheridan College with people who took his classes as well. So I'm just going to take a few minutes just to kind of give you my top 10 lists of Gord McLeod. And I'm going to start with the very first time I met Gord. So when I was a first year student, I was trying out for the volleyball team, the men's volleyball team at Sheridan, which had a legacy at that time. I think we won like 7 straight OCAA championships, been to the nationals, 7 years in a row, had won a gold medal, had won a silver, a bronze, a couple fourths and fifths. So a very competitive team, and I wasn't expecting to make it. I was practicing a lot, and when I went to the gym, I didn't have time to change to go to my class afterwards, and I still had my knee pads around my ankles and my shorts, and I looked like a goof. So basically, I walk into this marketing class. I don't know anybody in first year. I haven't met any friends yet, and I see Gord McLeod, and he's wearing these suspenders that were like silk, but they were just loud. They had everything, almost like advertising on these silk suspenders. He was wearing a tie that was probably halfway down his chest. He had lip pants that made it look like he was wearing floods. These big, huge lifts in his shoes. He looked different. He had that big, mustache as well that we all remember him for. And when I came into the class, he just looked goofy to me, is what he looked like. But what I didn't realize, and that he explained to us afterwards, is on the first day of the class, he wore a piece of something that every single one of his students had gone into the market and created. So the suspenders were one of his students, like his tie, his shirt, his pants, his belt, everything he was wearing was something that, one of his students had created that he had influenced as well, which is just a fantastic idea. But of course, I'm a 20-year-old snot-nosed kid and I don't know this. And he looks at me and goes, "Why are you dressed so funny?" And I took this as a shot. I didn't have any friends. I got defensive and I just said, "I just came from volleyball tryouts. What's your excuse?" And he goes, "Ooh, nice dig. Oh, you're going to do really well in my marketing class. What's your name?" And I said, "Chuck Bastie." And he goes, "Ooh, Chuck, you're going to do really well. Sit in the front row, learn all your stuff you're going to get. Let's do some marketing." And he had me right from that moment there. He had me. I just fell in love with Gord McLeod because he had a chance there to, and I wouldn't have blamed him, to come back with something a little bit more snotty nose than that. But he didn't. And then I sat in the front row of his class and I just learned. And, he had one of these things where he just used to say, go down the hall, go to your testing centers, write your tests, get your marks, and then come back and let's do some marketing. And he always had his hands like this because his palms were kind of like discolored and they freaked people out. I said, "Gord, why do you do this?" And he goes, "Oh, because when I was working for my advertising agency, I used to talk to people like this, and I've got these crazy palms that are discolored. So I changed my palms like this. My sales went up 30%." So something like that. So those were some things that I remember from Gord as well. So he used to have a sign in his office that said, "Good, fast, cheap. Pick two. You can't have all three." And in the marketing dynamic, I've used that for 30 years. Good, fast, cheap. In every industry, you've got those three criteria you can choose from. And you have to pick two because you can't have all three. So if you want good and cheap, you can't have fast. If you have fast, you can't have good and cheap. It works 100% of the time in marketing, and it really helps outline of what you can do on a service. I had a Friday afternoon class, and it was 3 hours for marketing. This is summer intake. I started in January, and I missed the first semester. And then I had to go through the summer semester to be online for the second year in September. So essentially, it would be like I was going to school for 18 months straight without a break. So when I go into summer school, it was a volcano that year that came out, and it just ruined the entire summer. So it was a horrible summer for sun, fun, and heat. It was cloudy mostly every single day. And it was perfect for going to school in the summertime because you didn't feel like you're missing anything. Your FOMO wasn't bad. But we did have a 3-hour class with Gord on Friday afternoons. And he used to say, if you come in Friday, we don't take any breaks. We do all our content and we can do it all, within an hour and a half. I'll let you go early. And one class, it was in July. It was really hot that day. And I didn't even have bus fare to get to Sheridan. And I walked. It's got to be 5 kilometers from where I lived to Sheridan. And I had a tank top on. And by the time I got to school, I was drenched. It was so hot that day. And I think it took me about an hour to walk this thing. And I had to walk an hour back. And so when I got there, I was just like, I'm coming. Only Gordon McLeod would make me walk on a Friday 5 kilometers to get to his marketing class because I really, really loved his classes. I can't stress this enough. I learned so much for it. There was so much energy in that class. He had such great ideas. The way he taught was engaging. I just loved every minute I've ever been involved with Gordon McLeod, like every single minute. And so I walked there and he said, "Okay, so we'll let you go early." And I was fuming inside when I heard this because I was just like, no, like I've paid for my education out of my own pocket. I wasn't on OSEP at the time. I had a summer job. I used that money to put myself through college and, keep myself sustained while I was in college. And I'm not like these other kids who are on OSAP or parents are paying their education. I'm here to learn because I want to go out there and I want to make money. And I can't learn if you let me go early. So I was fuming about that. And so when he let everybody else go, I took him aside and said, "Hey, listen, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I've paid for my education. I'm not here to go out early. So in my book, you still owe me an hour and a half today. And you're going to sit down and you're going to teach me everything that you know about marketing. because I'm here to learn, and I got you till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's what I paid for. And he looked at me, and his face just lit up. He's just like, all right, let's do some marketing. What do you want to know? And he sat with me for an hour and a half till 3 o'clock and a little bit afterwards, and answered my questions, gave me some ideas, really focused on what I wanted to do and where my passion lied and what I wanted to do in the world and what my ideas were. And he gave me a ton of ideas. I mean, that I actually really used. And then he drove me home. And yeah, he dropped me off at my house, and I didn't have to walk the 5 kilometers back. But that was just the type of guy that Gord was. Yeah, he gave me my first crack at self-improvement. You know, he had Tony Robbins audio tapes. This is how far back I'm going right now. Audio tapes of Tony Robbins on tape, and he loaned them to me. You know, and they were thousands of dollars back then. And I dubbed them and copied them, and then gave them the master tapes back. And I kept those, and I had those for 20 years. And I listened to those in the car. I listened to that on the way, my commute to work. You know, years later, they meant a huge thing for me. And it was really about how to be a better marketing person, how to listen better, how to connect with your audience or your target market or your customer or whatever that was. And it was huge for me. And it really, more importantly, opened up a mindset for me on learning, on trying to be better and to have a better mindset to improve constantly. He gave me my first book, you know, on improvement, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And when I got that book, I took it downtown Toronto, and I read it every single chapter when I was on break. And it was really, really profound for me. It launched my entire energy level into Toronto, downtown Toronto. His storytelling was just fantastic. I remember he had this one story about Vulcan Seal. Pardon me. Of him trying to get this Vulcan Seal on, and it was just like watching a movie that James Bond was involved with. You know, he went to the chalkboard at the time because it was chalkboards, and he's just like, yeah, we lost this 1 week, and then this goes, and then that goes, and like then this happened, and so we lose this, and like at the end of the story, I'm just like, oh my god, did you do it? He goes, no, of course we didn't do it because this happened and life happens. But then we went on to the next project, and that's what marketing is. It's a bunch of compiling losses and keep moving forward, and that's how marketing is done. You know, books aren't written, books are rewritten, like stuff like that. Like you'd always say stuff like it hits you and you go, oh my god, that's true. Yeah, books aren't written, books are rewritten. But his storytelling was so compelling. And every time he went into one of his classes, he had a fantastic story. I mean, I can look back now and see how ADHD Gord McLeod was. But man, was he entertaining. Man, was he charismatic. Did he ever hold a room? You know, even when you get him one-on-one, he was still engaging. And I went to his house many, many times when he was with Barbara Frank, a good friend of mine. And they opened their home all the time to me. You know, when I walked in and I dropped something off, or you know, just wanted to ask him a question, he was so always available. Not even just as a teacher, but as a human being, as a person, someone who actually gave a shit. And I wrote him a note one time, and I guess he was having health problems, and I just wrote him a note telling him how much I really appreciated him and how glad I was that I waited to go January intake, so that way the timeline I was on put me in front of him, and I didn't think that was a coincidence. And he called me back on the phone because it was landlines back then; it wasn't even cell phones. And he called me on my landline at home. Didn't even have my home number. I guess he went and got it from the registrar's office or whatever, and just said, "It's Chuck there." This is Chuck. He's like, Gordon McLeod. I'm like, Gordon McLeod. Wow, it was like a celebrity that was calling me. And he's just like, just got your note. I just want to say thank you. Like, he came at a perfect time where I've been having some heart issues and some cholesterol stuff and stuff like this. But it wasn't good news. But like your letter, like I carried it around in my briefcase with me. And he always carried a briefcase with him wherever he went. One of those old righty tatty ones. But like that was one of the very first times I had another mentor of mine that said, everyone loves a warm fuzzy. Or, you know, give praise lavishly, as Dale Carnegie would say. We all live on a starvation diet of acknowledgement. And so that was my very first exercise with that. And it landed with Gord, and Gord, really, really appreciated it. He was always a big celebrity. Like, he was just a big cuddly teddy bear. I remember we had a meeting at a bar one time because he liked his pints and he liked his wings. And we would have 20 people at this table. We were doing a board game about, we were in Brampton at the time, and there was this festival called Carabram, and it was really big in July. And he just said, somebody said, let's create a board game about Carabram. And we can include the sponsors or the nationalities or whatever it was. And he's like, that's a great idea. So let's go down. Went down to the pubs, probably 3 hours we were there for, and 20 people started. I think we landed with like 8 at the end of it. And he's like, everybody who's left here with the 8 is now going to be, part of this. And it didn't go anywhere. But it was just another great practicing session where you took away from that everything Gord's passion was about, how to include a marketer or a sponsor, or what their target market was, or what the audience was, or what they wanted. What was their MO? What do they expect of that? What was their return on investment? He always reverse engineered it with like, what does the customer want? If you can solve a bigger problem, you get paid bigger dollars. These are things that have always stuck with me for 30 years. Trying to think of some of the things here that he also implemented before I go on to my next one, which was the bigger one. So it was coming on summertime, and I was finishing my semester with him. And he wasn't going to be in the summer intake because he was taking a summer off, and he came back in September. So I had one of my last meetings with him. He's like, so what are you going to be doing for the summer? And I'm like, well, I've got, 25 hours of classes or whatever like that too. But, I also have a part-time job that I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to be really, really busy. But I don't start my part-time job until the afternoon. So I got my morning classes. I'm fine. I've been able to maneuver that around. And he goes, oh, okay. So what do you want to do? And I said, I want to work downtown on Bay Street. And the way I look at it is I either want to go into recruiting, stockbroking, or real estate. Those are the 3 things I was looking for where I wanted to start off at. And then he just listened to me, and he just said, where would you meet people like this? And I said, well, they're on Bay Street. He's like, well, yeah, but where? And I'm like, I don't know, networking events and stuff like that. He's like, would they let you into someone like that's a networking event? I'm like, no, they probably wouldn't. And he's like, well, where could you go that you could meet these people that they're going to show up at? I'm like, I don't know, like maybe a athletic club. He's like, now you're thinking. So he's like, back then there was phone books, and like, go to the phone book and find an athletic club that caters to uppity, professionals, and ask them if you could join them. I'm like, well, I can't afford a gym membership there, Gord. He's just like, okay, well, what do you do? And I said, well, my dad's in the military, so I'm really good at shining shoes. He's like, perfect. Get a shoe shine kit. Tell them that you'll shine shoes. Give them business cards when you shine their shoes. I'm like, what, are you kidding me? Is that a joke? He's just like, what better way to meet people but by taking care of their feet? And I'm like, wow, yeah, because you walk on your feet 16 hours a day. Suits love their shoes, right? So he's just like, if you want to meet influential marketing people, take care of their feet. Pardon me. So that's what I did. I got a shoe shine kit. I called the Cambridge Club downtown Toronto, and I became their shoe shine guy. And it absolutely opened up my entire business life. I got a whiteboard. I took my Dale Carnegie book. I put a quote of the day from every single one of those chapters up on there. And all these guys who came in, who were stockbrokers, politicians, lawyers, really, high-level professionals, came every single morning, past my booth, dropped off their shoes, and I got a chance to network with them for the entire summer, for months. And they gave me all their business cards. And by the time I was ready to finish school, I had all their business cards. And I just reached out to them and sent off resumes to everybody. And I got so many responses back, and I got a choice of where I wanted to go. And I chose to go in recruiting, and I did that for 25 years, and the rest is history. But I wouldn't have had that opportunity to meet those people or open those relationships. And then when I started my recruiting company, I went back there and I met a lot of the same people, and I got a lot of business from that. So the ripple effect of that with Gord, lasted years, like probably 10 years. And I even became a member of the Cambridge Club afterwards. So that's how influential that was. And it was just an amazing idea that he just betweened because it wasn't something that was something he put a lot of thought in. It was just total reactionary, but that's who Gord was. So yeah. So and then the last thing I want to say is, like, when I had started recruiting, I had moved out to the beach in Toronto, and I had created my very first office. And I was just above the Grover Exchange, Kingston Road and Main Street, and I had, 4 and 8 guys at that time in my recruiting firm, kind of a smaller little office area, but it was perfect. And we had a lot of fun there, and I was killing it, making a ton of money. I was having a ton of fun. The guys I had were amazing. And I brought Gord down, called him and said, hey, listen, I'd like to take you out to lunch. Thank you for, being such an amazing teacher in my life. And he came down. He was actually in Coburg at the time. He took the train into Toronto, met me at my office, walked around, and was just like, wow, this is amazing. Look what you've done. Oh, wow, this is one of my students. And he just got so excited. And then we went out to lunch and spent like 3 hours with him. And that was the last time I saw him. And I didn't see him after that. I didn't run into him afterwards. I still called him. I still talked to him over the period of years. But in the last 10 years, I just lost touch with him. And I guess he moved down to London. And, yeah, I just I never reached out to him as well. So, yeah, I wish I would have done that. So, I mean, but he knew how I felt. He knew how valuable he was to me. But God, I love that man. Like, he was just one of the great ones. So what I wanted to try and do with this video is obviously put this out to people who knew Gord McLeod, whether it be his friends or family, or students. And if you liked Gord McLeod, please share this video. Please comment on it. I'd like to try and get something together in the spring for a celebration of life at Sheridan College, because, I mean, people like Gord, teachers like Gord, come across our life so infrequently. They're unicorns, and he really was a unicorn. And I think that, Sheridan should like really honor his legacy for what he did for the students, because he was a massive resource in that marketing department. One of the old school guys that just, yeah, what can I say? Just blew me away. So if you knew Gord McLeod, please share this video. Please get the word out. Please do your own video. And again, like I always say, we always live on a starvation diet of acknowledgement. And if you had a teacher in your life that touched, moved, and inspired you, and just like really got you to do some amazing things and believed in you before you saw, the value in your own being, like, take the time to make a video like this for one of those teachers, because, paying it forward is amazing. This is what makes this happen. This is the magic that happens. So do your own video for your own hero, for your own teacher, for your own, educator, whoever got you to be who you are today, and that you wouldn't be without them. And I wouldn't be who I am right now without Gord McLeod. I just wouldn't be. I carry a little piece of Gord wherever I go, every day of my life, and I'll never forget him. So my last thing is to Gord, to where you are, my friend. Thank you for all your gifts. Thank you for being who you were. We're all flawed as human beings, but thank you for being perfectly flawed and really having an interest in giving a fuck about your students, because you did. You really, really took that seriously, and you were so good at it. You were so great at it. Your passion was contagious. Your energy was abundant. And I just, like I said, I loved every minute I ever spent with you. And thank you very much, Gord. And I wish you all the best in your graduation now that you've moved on from this earth. And I can't wait to hear all the things that people have to say about you. I think we're going to laugh. We're going to have a lot of great stories. And I'm just getting excited thinking about it. So to where you are, my friend, thank you and happy journeys.